Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to FMA Discussion. This is episode 428, believe it or not. And today we are going to be covering immersion labs. And Mahipal's been on here before discussing previous labs and how well they went and the theme. And the theme of this lab is going to be speed and timing. And also joining us will be Paulo, Rubio, GN, I think, right? GN Master, Grandmaster, Tuan, Uncle GM Poggy's nephew, all the above. So without further ado, we're going to be bringing up. If you have questions, please put them in the comment. Also, a ton of questions came in. So if you put a question and if it's relevant to what we're talking about, I will gladly and happily insert it right then. However, if it's not, I will jot it down and then I will definitely ask it when the timing is better. Okay. So again, it's not that I'm not seeing it or ignoring it. Okay. I just try to put them in there when they fit. If you're watching, tell us where you're watching from, smash that like button, and without further ado, here we go. Hey.
Hey guys.
Hello.
I was here in Paulo in the background. I was setting things up. Some great quick comments. Team Franco going live. Trying not to crack up.
I'm excited about this interview. I have some questions, and you have some questions lined up about this whole speed thing, different kinds of speed, and timing, and how different people are going to teach it. I'm super excited. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. Okay, so the test run was a great success. So with that being said, obviously this immersion lab, you're covering speed and timing. So my first question to you is, before we get into the subconscious and all the different aspects of the speed and timing you're going to have covered by the different folks that you got coming in attendance to teach, what was the inspiration for this choice?
You mean this theme?
Correct.
I think all of us at some point have wanted to be speed monsters. And then as we start to mature, we want to become timing monsters because you realize that, the physical.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So we try to become timing monsters, meaning have superior timing. And we learn that timing is what really separates the great from the also-rans, right?
Okay.
But speed becomes the doorway to it. So what was the inspiration? Quite frankly, it was a conversation with Maestro Jim Keating back in 2017, 2018. I forget. I was at his Ghost Boxing dojo, and we were talking about the different kinds of speed, and we were trying to categorize all of them, and there were 7 or 8 that we had come up with. And it kind of struck a chord with me that we haven't really broken down speed and start examining speed in a very holistic manner, right? Usually when people are talking about speed, it's like, okay, how quickly did you go in and go out? Usually an initiation speed or a reaction speed, but that's so much more, right? So we started looking at and breaking it down, and we came up, the list that I've been working on, we almost broke it down to about 20 different pieces. And I see them not as completely broken off and different things that you develop, but they are threads that tie a piece together. So like I was saying yesterday, you're only as fast as your weakest link in that chain. You can have great initiation speed, but if that gap is closed, you haven't connected, you haven't knocked them out, and you're now in a clinch, you're going to have some interesting problems to solve. And now when you start adding things such as asymmetrical fighting, weapons versus empty hand, or asymmetrical weapons, such as you got your 24-inch stick and he's got a latigo, a whip. Now what happens? Right? So you have this whole spectrum, and it's not just a thing where, okay, how do I just work on my fast twitch muscle fibers? How do I keep going at it? And, it's like, hey, do you see that or you didn't see that? Okay, you might see a hand. You're very unlikely to see a stick move really fast. And it's going to be impossible for you to see that whip because it's breaking the sound barrier. right? Your eyes can only catch so much. So we're looking at this whole idea of speed from this very asymmetrical perspective of true combat, rather than, okay, you know what, we're in a cage fight and we're evenly matched, or hey, I'm having a, pick your favorite brand of eskrima match, and we both have stakes and we're going at it. Not that anything's wrong with it, but our goal is to look at things very comprehensively. So we started looking at this from a very comprehensive perspective. So out of the 20, we've pulled out about 12, 13 pieces that we're going to go after now.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first of the three that we'll be looking at going in and truly examining speed and timing. So the first part, we're looking at the ranges, the different cultures and what they specialized in and how they bring in their very unique piece to this mix. And then we're going to also start looking at things like, okay, how do you actually now start tuning the human body, right? Our genetics play a big role, but that'll be part two. How do we start tuning the human body, and also looking at things such as sports sciences and the latest in neurophysiology and neurobiology and what it's doing, how the brain and how the motor cortex and the vestibular system come into play for you to start doing these things, and why certain weapons feel better for you as opposed to others, and how do you start figuring out what is going to give you maximum impact. And then the third part gets a lot more esoteric that I'm not ready to talk about yet.
That's fascinating. The second part where you guys start, targeting that. Wow. Yeah, because initially when you brought this up to me, I had no idea you were doing 3 parts of this, but that's fascinating. Before I ask the next question, Paulo, anything you want to jump in on?
Yeah, that came to my mind is, what's the point, right? What's the point in extrapolating and sort of approaching it from a more sophisticated lens, where someone might say fighting's fighting. What is the intention behind, first of all, breaking it down into different categories of speed, and what can the average person possibly learn or benefit from putting speed under a microscope versus looking at it from a more pragmatic, rudimentary lens?
I'm going to say my approach is more pragmatic. That's my perspective. And the reason it's more pragmatic is the things that you can't define, you can't control. The things that you can't define, the things you can't isolate, you can't tune, right? So sure, I just want to go fast and I have a really fast car. But how do I take that fast car to the next level of performance? Right? How do I, if my car starts to break down in a particular way, I'm just used to having a fast takeoff, but now I don't have that fast takeoff possible. Right. So do I just give up the fight game? So is this something that every martial artist needs? Absolutely not. Nobody has even thought about putting things like this together, right? A few times, I think guys like Guru Inasanto, Maestro Keating, they've talked about it in closed doors as to these different aspects. Hey, these are the ways to begin to examine it. Nobody has said, okay, if these are all the different aspects, now when we look at the world of combat, if you look at all the geographies around, different countries or different regions specialized in specific ranges, and they mastered and fine-tuned those particular ranges or those particular timings. Now the idea is, hey, we live in this age where we can bring all of this together. Now, what would be possible if we are able to examine this entire chain and see what is it that we can tweak? Number one, because when we are thinking about it rudimentarily, right? We are still in a young man's game, not even a middle-aged man's game, where you're just like, hey, I can take 1 or 2 and then just keep going. As you start getting a little older like me, you don't want to get hit that much. You want to hit the guy, but you don't want to get hit. Now you start developing a different skill set. And as you get older, you're in your 70s and 80s. Do you really want to be bouncing around with a 20-year-old? No, but that fight may still come on, and you got to take care of it. So this breaking down helps us conceptualize the different aspects and the maturity of speed and timing that you may have. And actually, I would say that it elongates your martial life, rather than just say that, hey, the speed game thing is good in my teens and my 20s and maybe my 30s. So from my perspective, This is more pragmatic, number one. Number two, as we start looking at, most of us are studying fighting typically from two perspectives. One is history, these are the lineages, this is what we studied, right? And two, we are looking at the cage. This is what works in the cage or doesn't work in the cage. You may have variations in between everything, but there's one other piece which is completely transforming this human body. And that what's transforming that is the advances in neurosciences. And how can we bring in the understandings from neurosciences to fine tune things? How can we bring in things from what you eat, your diet, the role inflammation plays, the things like nootropics can do, the things like sodium, not sodium chloride, but what sodium can do to your fight game, right? So those are the kind of things going towards what I call a comprehensive martial artist, a comprehensive human being that we are trying to examine.
If you were to simplify it into two broader categories, what comes to my mind, and I'm hoping for an elaboration from you, is when it comes to speed, there's processing and then there's manifested speed or physical speed. Is that accurate? Am I missing something? How would you
almost yeah, almost. I think yeah, you could say that. The way I break it down is, hey, I first need to recognize, observe. Once I observe, then I start orienting myself, because it's a relationship. Speed is a relationship between me and my opponent, right? I need to orient myself in terms of what are our positions, how much symmetry, asymmetry there is, whatnot. I orient myself, and now I have a plethora of decisions to do. If I'm, I mean, you want me to get into the neuroscience? I can. If I want to do very rudimentary things, I just go into things that I've done all my life. It's in my reptilian brain. If I want to have a few choices, things that I'm working on, I usually start using my mammalian brain. But if I want to play the big game, I'm leading a war, so to speak. I'm fighting multiple opponents. Strategy comes into play. My neocortex comes into play, and there are specific ways in which my body has to move for me to access those learnings, right? Or those decision systems. And once those decisions are said, okay, I'm making this decision, then it's manifested. I've laid it out sequentially, but this happens in a parallel process. It's happening in real time. It's not like I'm facing Paulo and I'm going to sit and decide what's going to happen.
So more or less, we can break it down into those two. Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
So I'm going to get to, there's a question that came in that's kind of fitting now. And I got to back up because the comments are rolling in. But kind of what you're talking about, when overall transition, in other words, if I'm not mistaken, what you were just speaking on when you were answering Paulo's question, as far as, depending on the range and age and whatnot, the ability to transition. I mean, there's speed in that. I mean, the processing and all that. What could you say farther on that as an overall under the umbrella of transition, as far as transition, offense to defense, defense to offense, whether you're blocking, deflecting, parrying, countering, adjusting position. I mean, anything for example.
It'll come down to in fencing what we call the 5 ways of attack, right? From fencing.
What's that? 5 ways of attack? No, I'm just kidding.
It basically comes down to that, right? If you really simplify it, that's what it comes down to. But the question is, do you know how to be in the right position? Nobody really talks about positional speed. Do you know?
That's why I bring it up. I agree. I love everything you're saying. I agree with you. Right.
What is positional speed? How would you even define positional speed? How quickly you can get to an appropriate tactically advantageous position? Is that a process thing?
Sure. I mean, that's the way. That's the how can you get there, or how do you find yourself always in that tactically superior position where you can reach your opponent, but your opponent can't reach you, where you have more choices than your opponent, right? And that's a high art. It's a very, very, very high art. So, but the ability to get into those positions before you can get into a offensive or a counter offensive, that's part two. So that becomes a critical piece. And we have Mahaguru Stephen Plink, who's going to be getting into this with weapons that he generally doesn't teach outside, things such as the Golok.
So, all right, here's the first question, and this is kind of fitting now, so I figured we'd get it out of the way. And this is from GM Ron. How easy can students truly learn speed from a teacher? Is it a process, and what are the timelines?
Yeah, and that's coming from a guy who's a speed monster, huh? He should be the one answering that question, not me. But I think it really depends on how good the student is and how good the teacher is. There are excellent practitioners who are lousy teachers. And there are lousy practitioners who are excellent teachers. So it's a dance, Mano. I haven't cracked that code.
Okay. All right.
Speed, there's the illusion of speed, and I think a lot of people fall into that category, where you can be fast so long as you can control all the variables.
Do you want to be fast, or do you want to be quick? And there's a difference. And do you want to be quick, or do you want to just have superior timing where I can be slow and still, like we discussed yesterday, you can have a damn AR-15 and you miss me by an inch, and I have a bad kitchen knife and I penetrate 1.5 inches in.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, but I think what's important about even just having this conversation is we get to illuminate that speed.
I agree.
Deceiving, right? And I work in the social media world where, hey, I can look fast, right? As long as I control all the variables, I know where the parts and pieces are going, I can give the illusion that I can get there before you because I know where you are going anyway. But there's a higher pursuit there, which is why I appreciate that you're doing this. But I do want to ask real quick, you call it a high level art, but there is a primal low level part to this, or I don't want to call it low level, but
I get it,
right?
Yeah.
So how does somebody who thinks they're all that already and they've got their good timing, maybe they've won their first 20 amateur fights, what do you have to say to that person who goes, I got nothing to learn from these old people and their weird terms and traditional ways, right? First of all, I don't think he'd be the right guy to go to this, right? But let's assume.
Yeah, I'll say
qualities about it.
I'll say good for you, brother. Have a blast. I say you have all the answers and all I have is questions. So you know what? Enjoy your trip.
But let's say there was something redeeming about this young man, this hypothetical young man, right? Mm-hmm. We did want to reach out to him. How would we convey the importance?
So I'll say, I'll ask him rudimentary questions like, how do you fight? Let's say he says he's a kickboxer.
Yeah.
I'm just making that up, right? I'll say, yeah, what are you going to do when I have a whip? I'll start bringing in asymmetry, right? Let's say he's 35 and I tell him, yeah, now you have a guy who's 17, who's way faster and a Golden Gloves boxer. What are you going to do then? Right?
So you would sort of illuminate some blind spots about.
Yeah, I would. Hey, like I said, all I have is questions. I would ask those questions to try and unearth. And if the other person doesn't want to see, so be it, man. It's his trip. Let him have a blast.
You're so zen, bro. I love it.
All right, we got another question in. We got a couple, actually. Okay, this is from Brett. Does the idea of when my opponent expands, I contract, and when he contracts, I expand under this idea of speed?
I yes and no, right? This is assuming that the distance and range is being managed. And if you're managing the distance and that range, and then you have sequential or in harmony, or what in the Japanese arts you'd call aiki, this harmonious transition of expansion and contraction, or what you would also see within the arts such as Shingi and Bagua, this helps your attacks disappear. Okay. And therefore that is speed, because half of speed, like Paulo was saying, is an illusion. As long as my hit gets in and you haven't seen it, I'm super fast, even if I'm moving slow. So sure, it comes in. Anything that helps you land on your opponent in the right timing, in time, comes into good speed, quickness, velocity, leading to timing.
Okay. All right.
I can ask another question.
Sure.
Please.
I don't want to monopolize the conversation, but I
please.
And I'm going to talk about me for a little bit, specifically when I get into, full contact stick fighting. I've fought a wide range of people, and I find that whenever I'm facing somebody who's, more aggressive, more agile, younger, how I manage that is that I try to occupy their mental space. And I try to overload them so that they're thinking about something that I want them to think about instead of the thing they want to be thinking about. And I find that slows them down.
Correct.
How does this fall into the immersion labs? Who's going to be teaching this concept, and how are they going to be?
Two people. One is a gentleman by the name of Paul Porter. He's had a few thousand full contact, full armored fights under his belt. And he's a Duke. Right, so
he's an actual Duke.
Yeah, so Duke Paul Porter. Okay, and he's been fighting for 50 years. So he's going to be talking about how you do the setups, how you recognize, and how you get them to do what you want by reading the tells in advance. That's number one. And then from Japan, to my knowledge, this is the first public open teaching that the school of Katori Shinto-ryu is doing. If you know anything about Katori Shinto-ryu, the oldest Koryu, the oldest dojo in the world, going to the 1400s. Okay, these are the guys who taught the shoguns. Okay, so they are coming, and they'll be getting into the art of Sen, which is taking initiative and overloading and disrupting the opponent's mind while keeping that no mind and destroying them, right? So just imagine you have Western fencing guy showing you that one aspect of that art, and then the Japanese Koryu with the katana showing you the same.
Wow. All right. Okay, they're coming in. So because we got a time limit here, so I'm going to try to. All right. Next question is from. Well, here, let's get this one out of the way while I find. And this is from Cesar. What do you consider to be fast? That's his question.
Best in what?
That's not a question.
Well, have a happy life. Don't get into a fight. Enjoy your kids.
You said, what do you consider to be fast?
Oh, what do I consider to be fast? When I hit the other guy and I manage not to get hit, and I'm smiling and he's crying, that's fast for me.
Okay. There you answer. All right.
Paulo's amused.
I love these questions, but I also hate them.
All right. Can you ask him to discuss the role of the polygon theory plays in all this?
I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, neither do I.
I've never heard myself. All right, Joe, if you could you expand on that just for Mahipal?
I have no. Polyvagal?
Polyvagal? Okay, he just respelled it. Okay. Is that still? No. All right. So if you could just give us a little more on that. Vase's question, is the seminar open to all? No, there's an applicant process. Application.
Yeah, it's open to everybody, meaning anybody can apply. Just I would encourage you to go and apply. What we try to do is just get a good mix of people from everywhere from 3 to 4 years of experience to the last event we had 2 guys with 60 years experience.
Okay.
As attendees. So we just try to get a broad spectrum.
And the number thereabouts you're taking is
25-ish.
25-ish. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Polyvagal is a collection of unproven evolutionary, neuroscientific, and psychological constructs pertaining to the role of the vagus nerve in emotion regulation, social connection, and fear response.
Right. So we are keeping that for lab 2, especially how the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system can both be activated and move forward. Now, these are mostly neurological constructs or conceptual constructs, because these are hypotheses that are still being tested to this day, right? But until you don't frame a hypothesis, you can't test it, right? So if you're asking me what is absolutely tested, the stuff that's really tested is behind DARPA and the former Soviet Eastern Bloc, and that won't make it out for the next 25, 30 years.
And we have that. I have that as a question.
But great question. That's part. A lot of those things will be covered in lab 2.
Okay. All right. You touched upon how many participants are going to be going. For those who didn't catch the test run, how many instructors total?
19.
19. Okay, so all right, so you had 19 instructors, kind of, and each. I imagine there's going to be some crossover. A couple are going to kind of cover the same thing, maybe with coming from a different experience or background. Is that fair to say?
Yes and no. I mean, they're coming from arts. So if you don't mind, I'll just go through the list and then we'll get this out of the way, right? So we have Patrick Strong, first generation Bruce Lee student. In my opinion, one of the few guys who's as fast, if not faster than Bruce, right? And at 84, he makes me feel like a real slowpoke. And I love that because he gives me hope that I still have pathways to go. And he's been doing a lot of work in neurosciences, working with autistic kids, whatnot, and actually doing real neuroscience and how it changes what he calls deep JKD. He's working with NASA and everybody else. He doesn't come out and teach publicly. So that's number one. Second, we have Sifu Tim Cartmel, ninth degree black belt in Kung Fu San Soo. World Striker champion, 5th degree black belt in BJJ under Hicks and Gracie, who's going to show how to get into clinch, from the clinch to the throw. Okay, and also he does sumo wrestling. How to get into positional speed from a Special Forces and SEALAT Maestro, Stephen Plink. How do you develop combination speeds and have that smooth flowing combinations when you're adrenalized? From Top Dog Eric Noss. Right? So as rudimentary as it gets, and yet very cerebral, right? Then initiation speed. How do you go from 0 to breaking the sound barrier with the whip with Grandmaster Ron Liu? How do you read tells, patterns of perception and mental speed? This is where Duke Paul Porter is going to be talking and showing things and the patterns that he's found from thousands upon thousands of full contact armored combat, right? Then we have the Bruce Lee scholar James Bishop, who's going to be sharing with us all the speed and timing drills and methods that Bruce Lee used from Wing Chun days all the way through later day JKD. Now you also have something called alteration speed and timing, which is how do you move around a spiral, right? Where you change directions, angles, heights, everything else rapidly. So for this, we have Maya Soderholm, who's going to be working with the double sickle, right? How do you fight with 2 sickles? There's one kind of speed that most people don't spend too much time on. It's called listening speed or sensitivity speed. When you say sensitivity, most people just think of Chi Sao, but there are arts way older than that. And you have a gentleman by the name of Scott Meredith. He's a master when it comes to the internal arts. He's translated some of the oldest texts, and more important than translating the text, he spent decades getting this fine-tuned. And he's also one of the masters under Vladimir Vasilev in Sistema. He's the co-author with Vladimir, okay, on the books that Vladimir wrote. So he's going to be doing things around listening and sensitivity speed. Then this idea of Sen, the initiative to kill speed, and how do you keep your mental balance? This is coming from the Koryu in Japan, a Menkyo in the Katori Shinto-ryu tradition, Richi Kitano Sensei. He'll be coming down and he'll be doing that. Then we have the special section that we are calling Malicia in the Americas, meaning the use of deception. Malicia is a Latin American term meaning deception in the Americas. And in this, we have 3 segments. The first segment, we have Maestro TJ Obi, who is going to be showing the machete arts from Colombia. By the way, this is the only place he teaches. He doesn't teach anywhere else other than the labs, right? So TJ Obi. Second, we have Golden Gloves boxer Miguel Lopez, 78 fights, 48 knockouts. Right, coming in, he's a two-time Golden Gloves champion. He's going to be showing how to adapt the boxing game for the street, and using the boxing skills to break the rules to have militia in the street. Right, so he's fought in the streets too. If you know what that means, you know what it means. And then we have the Bowie back cut. A lot of guys talk about Bowie, but the Bowie back cut, that's the creme de la creme of the Bowie arts, right? And here, Dexter, Mitch, and me, we both long-time Maestro Keating students. We'll be getting into back cut flows, and how deception actually happens with the Bowie. Now, the next special section is what I'm calling when the chips are down, right? Now, in this section, we have Olohe Jerry Walker. He's in his mid-80s, possibly the last grandmaster of the luau arts from Hawaii. He's also opening up. You hear a lot about luau, but you never see it opened up. He's coming in, and he's going to be showing what we are calling mature speed, because I had this funny conversation with him a couple of months ago, and I said, I want you to come for speed. And he's like, speed? I have timing. I don't need speed. So, but he's 84 and he still fights, and still knows how to put young punks like me in my place, with ease. And that's good,
Yeah.
And then we all work on footwork speed, we work on this and that. But what happens when you have a handicap? Let's say you're not able to move on your legs, right? And you still need speed to deal with people. So here we have Carlito Bonjoc from Stockton, who's coming in. He's been on a wheelchair for a long time, and he's going to show what are the things that he worked on with the handicap that he had, and still develop a game so that he could deal with the forces that are there, right? Then we have a gentleman, Michael Donahue, who's working with a whole bunch of baseball and football teams, and also works with Pat Strong on developing proprioception and hand-eye coordination. So what he's working with these sports teams, and how they use things like sticks to develop these skills to the next level, right? He's going to be covering that. And then finally, getting very esoteric, we are looking at Italian fencing and the role that alchemy played in the development of timing in Italian fencing.
Nice. So, my gosh.
So that's kind of like speed, So from
did you say the countries alchemy played in the development of speed?
Yeah, because alchemy in the Renaissance period defined everything in Renaissance Italy. Music, fencing, everything, right? So what were some of the patterns that emerged out of alchemy and the study of alchemy and how it influenced fencing that gave birth to the clash between the Spanish destrezos and the Italian maestros?
There's an episode right there down the line. I don't want to digress here, but that's been coming up just by virtue sometimes of depending on the episode I'm doing, and if it touches on the HEMA or fencing, and that has come up before, like those two systems. That'd be really interesting to if you got any ideas who to get on to cover that, that'd be pretty fascinating. Not to digress though.
Happy to connect you.
Yeah. Matter of fact, you know what? I gotta write that down. And so, all right, Paulo, do you got anything before I kind of jump into questions that are coming in?
Questions. I've got a bunch of questions. This is all just very interesting to me, man.
Okay, go ahead, though. Get one in there. While
I'm still stuck on the whole alchemy thing. I don't know if that's something. I recently watched this a series of videos. I've been getting into. I just random times I dive into a particular subject and I just digest stuff, and I got into rabbit hole the other day, and I think it started with medieval torture, and then I got into ancient civilizations, and it was just a rabbit hole. And then we got to alchemy, and then when you brought it up, I was like, how the hell does alchemy play a role in the development of fighting arts? And then when you mentioned that it was sort of this preoccupation and the whole idea about secrecy, and was there ever a successful alchemization of this to gold and secret societies? So I can totally get now how it could have influenced it. I have some idea.
Yeah, look, I have no idea whether somebody created gold or not. But the important thing is, we discussed this briefly yesterday, it's not whether you accomplish the goal that you're after or not. It's who you become in that process of accomplishing that goal, right? Similarly, the question on the vagus nerves, these are unproven hypotheses, yes, but it is what are the other discoveries that you make along the way of pursuing that unproven hypothesis.
Yeah.
All the discoveries that NASA made in order to reach the moon, right? Things like waterproof pens, right? So it's most of the true discoveries happen at a 90-degree angle. If you study the work of Buckminster Fuller, that whatever you're pursuing, the biggest discoveries happen tangentially. So yeah, if you look at the work of Agrippa and others from medieval Italy, they completely influenced the code of ethics, and that code of ethics completely influenced how they fenced, just like Bushido influenced it. And today, you could argue that MMA, that's kind of the thing that is influencing how the entire fight game goes. So these constructs that we hold that inform our life changes everything.
I wanted to ask you about, and I know, like, when we first started talking about this, you talked about a little bit about your background in the neurosciences and the science of skill acquisition. Can you talk to us a little bit about near transfer and far transfer as it relates to what you hope to accomplish from this immersion labs? What is far transfer, and how does that relate into this? Because it seems like a really broad scope that you're covering. How does that sort of interplay?
So I think the biggest thing for far transfer is, number one, expanding your frame of what you're able to conceptualize. When that game changes and you begin to realize that there are certain arts that are focused on these, and there are certain masters who are open to teaching those aspects, and each one has their own methodology, and you can pursue that path. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen over 3 days. Sure. Come on. Anyone who tells you it'll happen over 3 days is full of shit. But this starts you on that journey, right? So that's the far transfer. The near transfer is you start becoming cognizant of the ranges that you have and becoming aware of where you might need work, or where, like, if you're someone dumb like me, I really suck at this range, right? Every time I get in front of Grandmaster Ron Lu, I'm like, oh shit, it's too late by the time I even lift my stick. It's whipped here, right? So what is this area that you want to work on, and how do you start tweaking it? How do you start recognizing the different ranges that exist, the different kinds of speeds that exist, and then knowing, okay, this is my sweet spot. Now, how do I quickly get to my sweet spot and bring my opponent to that sweet spot? Because if I'm not in the sweet spot and I'm out of it, I most likely am going to get hit, right? Mm-hmm. Now, how does this happen? We can create extensive models that you can say, okay, this is the model. Now you go out, test it, operate it, and then encode it. That's one way of doing it. The second is unconscious installation. When you get overloaded and your conscious mind gets out of the way, which is usually the biggest impediment to skill development, right? Once your conscious mind gets out of the way because it's being overloaded, you start absorbing things. Ask anyone who's come to any of the labs, and they'll tell you, I don't know how it works, but it's still influencing me to this day. And with each of the labs, a fundamental change has taken place inside of me, and I don't know how to explain it. And as we do this, we have also, I work with a bunch of ethnographers, professors, and historians, and even doctors of psychiatry. And we are starting to encode this to say, these are the patterns, these are the heuristics that work. So what am I hoping in the short term? Know your game, discover your weaknesses, see how you can fine tune some of the things, or what are the pathways that you might want to explore in the near future. The far game is, hey, if we are in this because we love the arts, or we just love geeking out and nerding out on this shit, you might want to start thinking about being a comprehensivist, where you're thinking about the whole game. right? You may say, why the hell do I want to learn about handicaps? You never know. Okay, you may not get a handicap, but what if you're stuck to a chair with your seatbelt on, right? You'll say, hey, my plan is never to get old. Okay, good luck with that. So the idea is get that comprehensive view and start this journey of discovery. That's it. That's the
I like it, bro.
Nice.
I like it.
Nice. All right, some came in, and then plus I got the questions that you sent me, Mahipal.
Yeah, the ones that were sent to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get to some of those. Okay. These are no particular order. Okay. Talking about speed. So one question: who is the fastest person you have witnessed?
With what? For me, the fastest person that I've witnessed is this
This is
sharpshooter,
how it came.
man.
This is how it came to me.
There's this sharpshooter. He covered 1.4 miles and he hit the target in a little over a second. So it was pretty darn
that's
fast.
what we're gonna go with. That's how the question came to me. Why should somebody attend this?
If you
I don't know who sent you these questions, but I'm just reading them the basic.
I know. I have some good friends. Let's just say that. You should attend this if you're really interested in fine-tuning your game, number one. Number two, seeing what else is out there. And number three, maybe picking up some skill sets that you may want to pass on and teach others, right?
Absolutely.
Because even though you may be really good in this one particular range, what if you added the next piece as to how do I get into this range and how do I exit this range? Now, even if you just add those two pieces to it, you've suddenly transformed your game.
Okay.
I also think that if you're a curious human being and you just value the acquisition of knowledge in general, this is going to be Disneyland for you. This is what I'm getting this impression, man.
I expect you to be overwhelmed. I expect you to maybe even break down, right? And that breaking down of that ego is important because your ego is going to be the biggest impediment to your growth.
The biggest roadblock, right?
Yes. So if you're not comfortable with having your ego be malleable, then this is not for you.
It's not the place for you. Okay. Couple next quick ones, and we'll see if Paul's got anything, and then I'll get to some of the bigger ones.
I forgot one other piece in the teachers. My mistake. You're going to also have Guru Mark Mikita doing explosive speed.
Is he going to do any sombrado work? I love that guy's sombrado work. Is that for me?
Man, he is one of the top 5 all-round martial artists on the planet in my book. So
I love the way he articulates. I've been watching some of his videos.
You got to touch him. I mean, you got to touch his hands to really appreciate him.
I'm sure, but the way he articulates is on another level as well.
He's phenomenal.
Smart guy. I like watching.
Phenomenal.
All right. 2-part question. Can you explain the process of attending and why is there an application process?
So yes, the attending, you just go to www.theimmersionlabs.com, fill out an application form. You will receive an NDA. Once you've received the NDA and you've signed it, that we agree that these are the terms that are agreeable by you and us. Then there's an interview to just make sure that it's a good fit for both of us, because we are going to be locked up in a room with weapons for 40 hours and we are going to be pushed to our limits. And if we don't like each other, it's not going to be fun. So far, I've only had to throw one person out of the event, and I did that. And one of the big reasons for the NDA and being secretive about the spot is early in my career, we started having trouble with 2 rival gangs. I brought 2 rival gangs in to teach their arts. And, their guys all wanted to start showing up. And if I didn't have cops there, it would have been a bad shit show. So you know what? I just want to keep people and their dramas to the minimum, and just come, do a thing, and then leave.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Leave all the other crap out. Okay. We got, all right, let me just come here. All right. I'm just seeing if there's any questions that are kind of relevant to what we're talking about. There's a ton of comments. Folks, I'm sorry I'm not, the comments are just coming in, and I had already a pretty significant list of questions already that were sent to me previously. So I hate to say I have to give that. That's going to trump in what you guys are sending me now, in short. That's why, guys, I always mention, please send them to me in advance. All right. Okay, here we go. You should, a little funny thing. Renee's a funny guy. You should touch my hands. You'd be shocked what you feel. Oh, goodness. Robert Small, develop attribute.
Hey, Tim, thanks for that vote of confidence, brother. Appreciate it.
So, all right, so this is from Cesar. So, is this immersion a type of baptism of years of experience in combat to start anew?
Can you bring it up, Dean?
Sure.
Bring it up. I think people like it.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, if you think about baptism, you immerse yourself in the water and you're born anew. And in the words of Emily Dickinson, you don't need new worlds to go to. You need a new set of eyes to see the world anew, right?
Love that.
Oh, yeah.
And he froze.
Okay. All right. I got more coming in here. Where is? Oh my gosh, these things are flooding. Oh no. Oh
yeah.
No.
He froze.
He'll be back. He got in pretty easy. So all right, let's go. Okay, folks. Oh my, another funny guy, Glenn. Hi all, waiting Dean to release his Walking for the Streets program. No, the program's going to be, Glenn, Dean walking away from FMA discussion for the streets.
Walking for the streets. I love it.
I'm telling you, huh?
Hey, my son just got his first job, by the way. That's why I had to take off.
Oh, fantastic. What's he doing? What's a job?
He's working in a grocery store in the produce
department.
Hey,
good for him.
Hey, so where did you lose me? What is the last thing you heard me say?
Last thing it was perfect. You finished answering the question to Cesar. So
it was that quote. Can you say that quote again? I loved it. By Emily.
Oh, by Emily Dickinson. You don't need new worlds. You don't need new worlds to explore. You need a new set of eyes to see the world anew. That's Emily Dickinson. Man. And so in that way, and like me talking about having that ego that's malleable, where you're able to see the fight game anew and have it reconstructed, and that's how evolution happens.
Awesome, man. Okay. All right, let's get Jam to come more because at 5:10 we got time still, and we're doing pretty good. I'm trying to just, as far as this time map here. All right, here we go. Here's another. Well, here, if you want to just tackle this one quick, but this sounds like this is going to be for your part 2. But here it is, and this is from Joseph.
Part 2. All the science pieces, and we'll be approaching both neurosciences and neurophysics in that lab. And there are quite a few things that we're looking at, from guys who have been training U.S. Olympic teams to guys who fly and train at the Top Gun Academy. Like if you've been following the labs, you'll see that, I was also working with some of the guys who were working with John Boyd and in the development of the whole OODA loop and what they were doing to change the fight game. And we'll also be looking at the former Soviet bloc and the discoveries that they made in terms of how the mind actually works and how that can completely change the fight game. And the US, the CIA also just recently declassified, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, they declassified all the work that they were doing on their super soldier program in terms of how they were using the mind technologies and things like HoloSync and Monroe and HemiSync, those technologies, and how that actually works and changes your neurology completely. So it's a very, very, very big field. There are quite a few, there are hundreds and hundreds of ideas. But we're trying to stay focused on a few things that can be applied to individuals and and transform their game. Like one of the other things that we are looking at also is the role that food plays, right? So if you're trying to get into that optimal shape and move towards that speed and timing, what's the role of inflammation? What are the kind of supplements that work? What are the things that inhibit speed, right? If you really want to tweak the fast twitch muscle fibers, what are you supposed to do and not do? What kind of exercises actually come and work and play to that. So these are things we can spend years, years exploring. So, but we are kind of bracketing it off to say, okay, these are some of the pieces that we'll explore. So that this particular lab that I'm talking about, the follow-up lab, I've been working on it for 3 years now, and yeah, it takes work to pull. It takes the part 2. It takes a little bit of work, believe me, to pull this off.
Okay, no. I think it's fascinating you're doing these in parts. And here, I'm going to get one more question, and then we'll see if Paulo's got anything. Okay, this came in. This is a question that was sent to you. Who is doing cutting edge work in the speed and timing arena?
Former Soviet Eastern Bloc. So if you want to see the real stuff, go to the former Soviet republics. You will be amazed at what these guys can pull off and what they can do. And many of these guys are pulled in very early from the age of 12 and 13, and they live in a completely different reality than you and me, right? And what they can do with this is mind blowing.
Can you just, before we get to Paulo, can you just give me, do you know of any of the regiments are doing, or
yes,
like can you name off a few just that you know or might know, or that you can share?
So things like they have processes called autogenics on how they remove stress from the entire body, right? And they're able to do it at will. Second, they have this process of they are able to watch a fight simultaneously from 3 angles, where they're observing. Say, Dean, you and I are fighting, right? Say we're sparring. I'm able to see you from my eyes. I'm also able to at the same time clip quickly and see me from your eyes, and then also have a third perceptual position where I'm seeing both of us fighting in real time. And they do this while it's happening in real time, right? They're able to create grids on your body when they look at you and start planting which way you're moving, and they plant those grids as memory boxes, and they say, okay, this is the pattern that exists in him, so these are the openings. They have processes such as borrowed geniuses, very much like a hunter stalks a prey. These guys put on the entire persona of the people that they're going to fight. And I'm not just talking about watching their fight game. They actually put on that persona and they start moving and talking and walking like them. And they completely absorb what the other person is before they start fighting them. So these are just some of the things. And I've seen some of these things firsthand.
That's right? Freaking wow. I would have never guessed any of that stuff that you just mentioned, except taking on the role of the person that's stalking. That would be the only one. But what about the physical, I guess? Like, what are they doing as far as the physicality?
Complete relaxation. I've not seen anyone relax as much as they can. And also how they take blows, right? They can just take an entire full powered blow and just dissipate that power, right? So it's like you're hitting a zombie, and also when they hit you with so much power. Like, you got to be punched by Vladimir. That's the closest you'll get to some of the Soviet bloc guys. Get punched by Vladimir, and if you don't throw up, well, I'll stop talking about this stuff, right? And that's the amount of power they generate. But so the cutting edge stuff is in how they completely relax the mind, and how they completely relax the body, and how they transcend the mind, right? And one of the few guys in the West who's doing it is Pat Strong.
Strong?
Yeah. If you can get him to talk about it, then yeah.
Where's he located?
Los Angeles, LA.
Of course, they're all out in California. All you guys are out in California.
Yeah. So yeah, that's some of the cutting edge stuff. Unfortunately, I can't bring those guys. I mean, I bring guys from everywhere, but trying to bring those guys to the US is next to impossible.
No. But you got Pat. It sounds like you got a gentleman there. That's so fascinating. Paulo, you got, before I get to any other questions, you got anything?
Man, are you working on an immersion labs in the future in that crazy, wonderful brain of yours relating to psychedelics and its role in influencing martial arts and performance? Because you must. Some of the stuff that you've already talked about bleeds into this, like lost and forgotten.
It's not lost. It's not forgotten. It's hidden.
That's a better term.
It's hidden. Yeah. Look, let's just say I'll answer your question this way.
Just say yes. Just say yes, Mahipal. Tell me you're working on it, bro.
6 years now.
Okay, I knew it.
Yeah. So it goes into an area called war magic. Okay. So things like the medicines that you take, the plants that you take, that completely alter your ability to handle pain. Right? Things that were taken to give you in modern terms, an ayahuasca visionary experience in which you suddenly become dedicated to something far greater than yourself. Yes, right? Sir. So these are realms that the former Soviet bloc and China and Tibet have really excelled at. India has been doing a lot of work in that for millennia. It is just something that it's hard to get these people to talk, and B, to get them to come out in public is even harder.
I get it. It's really fascinating. And I feel like anyone who's had an experience, a real firsthand experience, can never really fully articulate. Words are inadequate.
Not only that, you and I have discussed the work of Terence McKenna, and you know what a big influence he was in my life. But also, if you look at PTSD, PTSD is when they're not able to make the transitions from being normal to being a war demon to coming back to normal effectively. And back in the day, the use of drums, dance, and medicines was critical to manage these transitions. But that's all I want to say about that right now.
Well, I can add to it real quick. You know, there's an organization that I was a part of, and I still consider myself a part of. It's Veterans for Healing, and now a big primary focus they have is in exploring psychedelics to
the two pieces that really help them there is both microdosing on psilocybin and DMT, but also from a neuroscience perspective, what we're looking at is the role that oxycodone plays in helping them actually reconnect with people. And there are specific protocols that they developed in terms of how do I get my mirror neurons to move similarly so that I'm not disconnected from the people in and around me. So it's a fascinating field. I never thought I would be talking about this in public, but Jesus,
I mean, it's out there now. I have an ETF, an exchange traded fund on psychedelics. It's, Johns Hopkins Hospital. They have an entire ward now, like dedicated to its research. I think it's coming out more. And
I agree, and I would say martial artists have always done it. I remember some of my teachers would always get you guys drunk before they start working out with you, so you're already in an altered state.
Sure.
So yeah,
I went on one heroic journey, and it revealed to me my role in FMA, and I was quite thankful. It was one of the scariest things I'd ever done. But again, words are inadequate, but it's really fascinating.
I will just give one piece of advice on that, and then I'm going to shut up. Okay, so don't listen to Paulo or me and just go start pumping in DMT or ayahuasca. Find somebody who can guide you on a journey properly.
Yeah, not this
Otherwise,
guy,
you're
man.
going to be in deep shit.
Oh yeah.
All right, got questions because we're coming up to. All right. Okay, here's another question from Cesar. Where do you see the future in 10 years from now with combat? Question 1. And how does the Immersion Labs have any effect to its stepping the future of combat?
Shaping,
sorry.
I don't know where I'll be in 10 years. I'll be full of shit if I told you I knew where combat will be. But I'm hoping what Immersion Foundation does three things. Number one, we're working on saving and archiving some of the old knowledge, right? We don't want to lose that. When we lose that arc of imagination with our ancestors, not only do we lose that history, we lose a part of ourselves, number one. Okay. Number two, we are exploring the further reaches of human possibility. Speed is one of the first things that we started to come out with, right? To see what are the constructs, what are the hypotheses that can be tested out and move forward, right? So that's the second piece. The third piece, I am working with quite a few. Well, let's just say I'm blessed that I have some really good martial artists as friends and some very good academics as friends. And we're actually working on getting this material out into the public. Because here's the thing, man. You know, you have a lot of people say, oh, I've got the secret. Stay with me. Stay with me. 10 years later, you still haven't learned it or I haven't taught you the whole thing. One of two things. You never intended to teach me or you're full of shit. Right? So we need to grow up from that, when we keep secrets like that, and you can justify it in what way. My clan, I don't trust you, this, that, and stop wasting my time, right? So I think putting this out is the best way to actually save this knowledge too. Here's the reason why. You may know about it, but until you don't do it and don't put in those hours, you don't know it. And if somebody is putting in those hours anyway without your knowledge, without you granting them that secret footwork or that super secret twitch, right? They'll discover it sooner or later. And you're going to be irrelevant.
Okay.
Right? So the idea is that, hey, let's get away from this secrecy nonsense that destroys arts, and let's actually work on making the next generation better than us. So that's my hope. I think I've shared this with Paulo and with Dean, and I'll share this with you all. My hope is just to find 5 guys that I can light this fire in, so that they can take this work even further and make all the work I've done irrelevant and just a stepping stone.
I'm still there. We had that. Well,
I know.
Well, and
we'll
we got a question from Glenn. Will the labs eventually cover all the attributes? Well, absolutely, you're covering speed in this one, but strength and sensitivity and etc. I guess.
I have about 9 labs that I have planned out in my head.
Sure.
Okay. So that's the path that I'm going on and just beginning to do that. Okay. Over a period of time, sure. My hope and my goal is that I find guys who are better than I am at doing some of these things, and they start taking these ideas and going into areas that I may think is wrong or full of shit or crazy, but they need to do it.
Okay.
Working on that psychedelic lab for a long time.
On the psychedelic aspect, okay. So Mike, are they edible? All right. So we're gonna say that because it sounds like you got something up. Mike says hello to both me and Paulo. Hi, Mike. All right. Next question. Cesar is coming with some good ones here, and then I'll get back to the ones that were sent to me. All right. So with all these studies and applications, have you personally applied them yourself?
He wants to know if you ever stabbed anybody. You ever kill anyone, Mahipal?
Okay, next.
It's one of those questions, man.
Yeah. I'll say this. I have learned from every person that I've crossed paths with. Some made me a better person for having followed what they did, and some made me a better person for me having chosen not to follow what they did. Okay. And they both have enriched me. So in that way, I've applied everything that everyone's taught me.
Amen, man. That is
right.
That kind of question. Hey, do you think one day, like the immersion labs as a thing that happened or continues to happen, do you hope that one day people see it, or more people see it as being historical? like there are selfies from Immersion Labs 1, and that's going to be valued by the broader martial arts community, like we do these Bruce Lee photos or these.
Oh wow!
Because I think so. I get that.
To be honest, I never thought about it that way. I was trying to capture history in terms of let's get some of these guys that would otherwise never come out or never be seen. So from that perspective, it's historical, right?
I think so.
And yeah, and I think it's the first time that such a broad range of topics and such a broad range of teachers and maestros have gotten together in an ego-free environment. Anyone who's attended, they'll tell you, it's a lot of empty cups and dry sponges just waiting to
getting all moist and wet.
Yep, there you go.
I love this, man, and I love that you're doing it. When we first had that meeting, right, when I first heard about you, like, who's this guy? And then after that first conversation, like, holy crap. And there's a lot behind the scenes and a lot that you're working on, and you're like the safekeeper of so much information. And I really love the way that you're dripping content out and you're being protective of knowledge that should be protected while still having this intention that you want to preserve it for everybody. That's really cool. I think you're doing it in the right way, if there is a right way, so to speak.
Yeah, I certainly hope so, because a lot of people have entrusted a lot of their learnings, and a few countries it's their national treasures. It's not mine. Yeah, and I will never claim it as my IP, even though I recorded all of it. It belongs to them, and that's how it should be preserved, and that's how it'll be preserved, at least while I'm around. I can't say what'll happen
I hope
later, but at least while I'm around, that's the way it'll be.
You gotta get your A team. You're gonna have your A team who's going to perpetuate and continue everything you've done, all this great work that you were starting, and
Yeah, I mean, like there are so many films I have that, things like The Last Warrior Priest of the Maoris.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Maoris haven't seen that art, and here, he's a brother, and he is showing, and all of this is on film, right? All the various expeditions, like the one to Portugal, right? All the 10 schools of Jogo de Pau were there, and we've got all the 10 expressions of it, like night and day. All the 10 expressions of Jogo de Pau.
10 expressions. Wow, I had one guy on, and 10 expressions. Wow.
Pedro, yeah. Right? Pedro, something.
Pedro's one. Luis Preto. I think you were talking about Luis Preto, right? So
that's who I had on. Correct.
Yeah, Luis is a good friend too. He comes from the Madrid school. It's a different expression. There's the FAF school, but there are 10 different expressions at least, and we were able to see and experience and film all of them.
Yeah, he was a great guy. I found him very interesting. All right, back to your questions that you sent me.
Caesar, real quick. I like that term he used. You're like creating a seed vault of combat knowledge. Very good.
I've been neglecting some of the comments just due to trying to.
Sorry, I just like that. Sorry.
No, not at all. Cesar asked some great questions, so he deserves to be highlighted with his comment there. Your study of hopology in relation to the immersion labs. That's the question that you sent me. Whoever sent you that question.
My study. So he was asking me how does hopology and immersion labs?
I guess the question is there a relation between the two?
Absolutely. Hopology is the study of human combative behavior, especially armed combat, right? And everything that we've been doing in the labs, a portion of each of the 5 labs has been heavily dealing with armed combat. Everything from sticks, small blades, to sickles, to machetes, to swords, to rapiers, to whips, to pole arms, to garrotes, to ropes. So yeah, so from that perspective, shark teeth, yeah, that too. So hopology is a part of it. It scares people away when they hear hopology. They think there's some crazy academic pursuit only. No, it's not an academic pursuit. It's much more an Indiana Jones pursuit, if you will, right? Think about the earlier guys who did haplology, like Burton, Richard Burton, Sir Richard Burton. Think about Don Draper. These were guys who were going into uncharted territory alone or with one or two guys and discovering arts that were never talked about, and for the first time writing it out, right? That's haplology, right? So it's not so much being an academic, a theoretician sitting in front of the computer. Every one of the expeditions, I've put myself in the middle of it, and humbled myself with all these masters. So you have to put yourself in rather than be the guy behind the camera saying, "Oh yeah, I approve." So that's haplology. You got to get skin in the game.
Yeah, which kind of we could tie this another question that came in that you sent me, and obviously, one can't become one by just attending an event or you're just doing weapons work or the study thereof, right? That's not becoming.
Yeah, so the study of haplology is pretty comprehensive. So it's not just about, hey, studying a weapon and you're a haplologist. You have to get into the history of things. You have to get into the science of things. You have to get into the transfer of skills of things. You have to see how this changed over time. What were some of the other influences, and and then be able to codify that. And once you codify that, you got to be able to sit down with these experts and say, okay, this is the crystallization and encapsulation of what you're doing. So just as an example, when Don Draper Sensei went to Japan and opened Japan for the Western world, the Koryus, right? He basically found the 8 traits that were common across all the Japanese arts, right? And he said these 8 traits, when they're present, these are the old arts. And that became the foundation. That became a new insight, a new conceptual framework through which you could analyze these arts. But in order to do that, he's a world-class judo player. He was a Menkyo Kaiden. That's the highest you can reach within a Koryu in Shindo Musoryu. So he was a practitioner who spent decades and then played with the different arts. He wrote the first book on Silat in the 70s, right? So he was a man way, way ahead of his time. So it's not if you're attending a weekend class or you're playing with one weapon, sure, you can call yourself a haplologist. I don't care. I don't own the term. You can call yourself what you want.
You can call yourself it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Literature. Another question that came in. Literature on speed.
Whew.
Was the question that came in.
Yeah. So I had a list of over 400 books that I found covering speed from martial and from combat perspectives. And it's massive, and it continues to grow.
All right, I got something here. I'm going to try to. I'm going to get these questions. Paulo, anything you wanted to ask as far as what we've been talking about while I look at these questions?
No, nothing comes to
mind. Okay. All right. This is kind of interesting from Brett. Could it be stated that the difference between a martial artist or a student of life is when a pretty girl walks in the room? Most look at the pretty girl, but they look at everyone's reaction to the pretty girl entering the room. I don't know if that's the best analogy or not, but I thought it was interesting. So whatever, if you guys care to comment or pass on it, up to you.
It be stated that the difference between a martial artist or a student of life is when a pretty girl walks in the room, they look at the girl, but is everyone looking at the reaction?
Yeah. So I guess the student life will look at the whole picture. I don't know. Anyway, here we go. Oh, another one from Cesar.
Or if you're a true student of life, much like
girl,
do you have any?
Wait, hold on. You were about to say something, Mahipal. Where were you going with that thought?
Have you seen A Beautiful Mind?
Yeah.
John Nash. When the pretty girl walks in, he figures out how you game the system. So that's a student of life in my books, and also a martial artist.
Hey, that works.
All right. But maybe perhaps a true student of life would just look at the pretty girl. Maybe.
Depends if you're single or married.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yes. What is your status at said time of looking at said girl? All right. Do you have any publications of any of the combat history you have discovered?
Oh boy. Okay. We published a book on that we call Strands of Strife and Life on the whole Caribbean expedition and some of the first exposure to the Barbadian stick licking art, to the Indo-African jab steel whip fighting, to the Kalinda of Trinidad, and Grima. So that's the first one. We've published 5 journals covering stick fighting arts of the world, right? And we are working on a book we are calling the Book of the Stick. It's a 1,600-page book with over 2,500 photographs, 3 volumes, right? And about 100 peer-reviewed articles from all around the world on the state of stick fighting arts by living practitioners in the 20th and 21st century. That'll be coming out later this year. We are also working on the true history of FMA in America. My colleague, Professor Michael Ryan, and I have conducted in total over 80 interviews, gone through hundreds and hundreds of other publications and records. And we made some startling discoveries on what is the true history of how FMA came to America and spread to the world, and who the key players were, and how the arts changed and transitioned, and people who have wiped out from history, and who some of the true pioneers of these arts are, right? So, and then we've also sourced a very rare book out of Indonesia. It took 3 international foundations to get this book out of Indonesia. And we're working on translating that from Bandunese to Dutch. And from Dutch, it'll be then translated to English because we didn't have anyone to do the direct translation. And this will cover the history and the development of Kujang, and how it comes into play, and the 4 or 5 traditions that still practice it today. So these are some of the publications that that we have been able to work on while we're doing the rest of the stuff, such as the expeditions and the archiving and the labs.
I have a question.
Yes.
Based on what you just said, there are certain individuals that are credited with having brought the Filipino martial arts or popularized the Filipino martial arts in the United States. What's a name that you can provide for us today that not a lot of people know of, who have made a significant...
I can't at the moment because of an NDA. Okay. But let me just say that, so let me just say this, that we probably have the most complete picture of Felicimo Dizon that was ever constructed, who is the teacher of Angel and a peer of Floro and Tatang and everybody else, Jose Mena, everybody, all these guys will talk about him. We even know his teacher's name and what he did and how that came into being. We know how from one particular locality in Cebu, everything spread around the world in less than 60 years, and what were the foundational clubs, the role that magic played in all of it. I'm not just talking about Anting, and how that spread in. So just wait till the end of the year. You'll want to buy this book.
Wow. All right. Looking forward to it.
You've also you did some extensive also study though, just Stockton as a whole too.
Yes.
You know, and not just, you know, the common myths that most of us think we know or been exposed to on the East Coast per se. I mean, you've really gone pretty deep in there, and who's not just the who's, but also the cultural identity and aspect and everything.
Yeah, so like I said, you know, Professor Michael Ryan and I have been working on this for years, and that'll be another episode. I think it'll be
absolutely. I would.
It'll be a heated episode, but
so you're gonna keep. So you're gonna keep. See, Paulo, they're gonna keep me locked doing this, man. Dean, I'm gonna have something for you for 4 months. Don't you go.
They pull you back in.
And they pull me back in. All right. You kind of touched up on this, but if you want to expand any further, can you speak on the work that you have done in the former Soviet bloc?
So like I said, you know, Jesus. I haven't met anyone who does better skill acquisition than the former Soviet bloc. right? Everything from what is done to the body, what is ingested in the body, the use of music, and how the rhythm of the music and how specific music, especially from the Baroque time, how that opens up hemispheric integration, the use of binaural beats, which is very much similar to drum beats but done in a very specific pattern, how you get into these altered states at will, right? That is some of the true cutting edge work in the former Soviet Eastern Bloc, right? Because at the end of the day, the weapons are more or less the same, right? But there are methods in which they reformat their brain and they reformat how the emotional content is held in the body and move from there.
I just got a question on that. When you said they kind of reformat, reshape the brain and all that, when these guys get done doing whatever they're doing, whatever their avenue of athleticism or what they choose to do, whether they're Olympians or they're just whatever, is that permanent? In other words, do they go back to a normal setting, a normal life? I mean, like, how do you undo that rewiring, if you will?
Deep question. There's a lot of work in neurosciences around things called neuroplasticity, right? And also the kind of environment that you run into, it opens up certain genes in your body, right? Okay. Some of these changes are permanent.
That's what I mean. It's like, once you do this, man, I mean, are these young folks being kind of, hey, is there being disclosures to these young folks that are about to embark on this and knowing that some of this is going to be kind of permanent? And
even the US doesn't do it. You think the Russians would do it? That you give them a full disclosure on what you're testing. For God's sake, we tested. For God's sake, we tested a nuclear bomb and we tested the effects of it by having people in a ship and not telling them what was going to happen. And they were told a few minutes before the explosion.
That was nice of them.
Duck down and close your eyes and ears.
Yeah, it's just something that when you were speaking on that, I just wondered, like, the after effects, permanent or, but hey, all right. So, okay, we got, let me just see here. Our Paulo, we'll get to that. All right, Renee, this is critical. Steven Seagal was a pioneer in bringing Filipino martial arts to US.
He invented
Of course, him and Frank Dukes.
I just want to acknowledge Renee's comment. Episode 355, 404. Okay. Future tense. Will you be doing this in other cities as far as immersion labs? No.
No.
Okay. Good answer.
The simple reason, it's a lot of work. Okay. Each lab takes thousands of hours. If you look at the website, and if you build websites, even just that took a while. And then you're trying to bring 19, 20 people into one place at one time. That's not easy either, right? And then if I have to add to that stress at going to other cities to do it, forget it. It won't be fun for me anymore.
And I won't do it. No. I don't think you should. I mean, the fact that what you're providing for the overall martial arts community, I don't think you should be doing it anywhere else. Okay, we got. Here's kind of. We had to be cloned. All right.
I think you don't want to clone me. It's pretty flawed. You might want to take things that I have and put it into better genes and take them to the next
We're gonna pass on the cloning for now. Okay, this is from my wife. I guess I have to kind of decipher. This is hieroglyphics for basically make sure I leave the house by 5:15 to take my son to BJJ. All right. And I still have plenty of time. So, all right. Okay. These came in late, and these are from Phil. And I think they're for both of you, actually. All right. Yes, they are. Okay. What is the funniest moment you can remember during a group session teaching this goes to both Mahipal and Paulo. I'm not sure what he's referencing as far as the teaching, but let's say something in regards to what we're talking about. What was the funniest moment that each of you can remember in a group session?
Well, it was funny or tragic. I'm not sure. There's a thin line between that.
Okay.
Dude, we were working on Bowie knives, and there's this one dude who insisted on carrying his live blade in his on his waist while training with a trainer. And then in the middle of a technique, he forgot to pull his trainer and pulled his real knife and cut the other guy's fingers off, cut it off.
You know,
were you there for? We think about the same seminar where that happened.
I was there.
Was the seminar called Uncut?
No.
Okay, so there's a different seminar where this happened.
Exactly. Yeah, I won't name the instructor. It was very closed door, but yes.
Yeah, that happens, and so for me, I'm a stickler for like no live blades.
No blades on the floor. Period. I mean,
and we do. I got this from like the tactical community where you physically have to check and double check, right? So you have somebody get patted down, and then a second person to confirm it.
Yeah, I've been too many careless accidents and all that. Paulo, do you in fact have a funny story that you'd like to share?
Yeah, there's a lot, but things like the instructor teaches about situational awareness, and then he falls asleep during break. Just stuff like that. It happens all the time. Can't be perfect.
Yeah, lots of funny stories. I don't want to embarrass anyone. Yeah.
There's a lot. There's a lot, man.
He's got a second question. Again, this is for both of you. Do you have a routine that you like to do in the morning as morning and evening habits, which gets you going for the day and to help you unwind after training?
Yeah, for me, my relationship with God is very important, and that's how I end my day. And it's half an hour of me and my meditations. That's what helps me unwind. My morning routines. I've had some health issues, and I'm just trying to work through those. And I'm not able to go as I used to go earlier, and I just have creating this what I'm calling segment working out. So I have these pockets of time that I work on, and then just have that focused point of view when I'm working on that. Sometimes I'll just sit in a kibadachi or horse stance while I'm taking a Zoom call, and that's my training. Sometimes I'm carrying my daughter and then working on my stick play. That helps me both. It's my time with my daughter, but also working on things. So I just try to find things in my day where it can be a training for me. And like my best training partner right now is my daughter. The reason being, she is not blocked by bad habits that I have from years of martial arts. When I give her a stick to hit, it just comes out from the wildest angles, and it keeps me on my toes.
That's nice. That's awesome. Training with your daughter. Man, I thought that was the only one that would stay in a horse stance while I was doing something. Really, it's like, all right, I guess I'll work my legs now while I'm listening to this, while I'm on hold for 30 minutes. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So that's kind of my routine, so to speak.
Yeah. No. Paulo, how about you?
I have no routine. I'm like a functional ADHD.
If you gave me this like spelled out routine, I would be like, get out of here. I don't.
I have no. Sometimes I have it. Like
that is your routine. There's no routine.
No routine.
The routine of no routines.
Yeah. Like I'd have work to do, and then I'd read something on MMA discussion, and then that's my day. My day is like, I'm going to dispel this, or I'm going to elaborate on it, and then I'm going to go make a video. So I'm a very distracted individual. But I think in a good way. I don't train a lot. Sometimes I give that impression, I don't train a lot. I don't train with my kids a lot. But I do like to be mindful of how things relate to one another, right? So where something may not look like it's a purposeful or immediately recognizable kind of training, some things are going on in my brain. And I think a lot of people sort of operate in that way, where they see moments in time from a perspective that isn't so apparent from an outsider's perspective. So, but yeah, no routine.
No routine. No.
All right. Discussion, Facebook, Instagram, as soon as I wake up, and then wherever the universe pulls me into a line of thinking, that's kind of how I run my day.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Well, this has been wonderful, guys. Mahipal, closing thoughts on your upcoming event, how folks can get a hold of you if they want to apply, anything maybe that I missed that.
So, guys, a lot of people say, oh, this is a once in a lifetime thing, blah, blah, blah. But I assure you, this is once in a lifetime. Okay. Once I get done with the topic, because I have about the next 9 or 10 planned out, I'm going to be coming back to this. If speed and timing is your thing, come to it. Okay. I assure you, it will make you uncomfortable. It'll push your limits, but I hope in the best possible way, so that when you leave it, you're better off for it and from it, right? And I don't have the gold, silver, bronze packages, no videos available for sale. You come in, you do this once, and I promise you'll remember this for the rest of your life.
Nice. Paulo, anything you'd like to close out with?
Yeah, for the folks who know me, I get exposed to a lot of things, and I get to hear from a lot of people. Despite never having met Mahipal, or despite never being to an immersion labs, I do believe that he's speaking the truth here. It is historical. It is once in a lifetime. Part of my job, I think a part of what has made me successful is being able to see through filters, whether that's a filter of social media or having malintentions. I feel like I'm a pretty good read of things. And so I was immediately captivated by the work of Mahipal. And I think the Immersion Labs is definitely historical. And if you have the opportunity and the means to be there for these things, you should really try to do that.
Well said. All right. Well, hey, this one's great, man. We just timed it out perfectly. We got questions from the gallery. I'm not gonna say peanut gallery, but the gallery, and we got the questions that you were sent to you, and we got them all and went through all. So
your son doesn't miss jujitsu.
And most of all, I won't be seeing any of these hieroglyphics coming across from the gallery. As a matter of fact, in Cesar, it's so nice to say 12 minutes, which is very kind of Cesar to keep me on my toe as far as the time goes.
Dean, I want to interview you and your wife one time on my podcast.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. Anyway, enough about that. Mahipal, you're doing amazing work. Dean, you're doing amazing work. And
hey guys, thanks. I truly appreciate you both from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for helping me bring light to some of these things that would otherwise be forgotten. And my hope and my goal is, some of the hidden and secretive traditions, whatnot, that most people would never have an opportunity to observe or learn from. I've been blessed that these doors open for me, and I'm just trying to open those doors for others. So jump on it. And many times I get requests saying, hey, just hook me up with Pat Strong or with Jerry Walker. Guys, it doesn't work that way. Okay. It's hard enough meeting them. So you want to work with these guys, let them see you first. Some of these doors have taken years. I've been trying to open Hawaii up since 2017. Now it's finally opened. Okay.
Well,
so this door is open. No?
You got the green light anytime here to promote what you got coming and all that. So you don't even need to ask. We'll make it happen.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right, be good. I will be calling you, if not tonight, over the weekend to that other tasteful matter.
Anytime. And if I don't answer, I'll call you back. Okay. So
I appreciate that.
All right, man. All right. Take care, guys.
And Paulo, as always, a pleasure to be here. Please give my regards to your uncle. I do. Okay.
Yes, from me too. And please tell him I apologize for not having known his greatness.
He'll be insulted.
Well, but you gotta go look him up because I mean, yes, you need to do that. Your life will not be fulfilled until you do that. And as far as I'm gonna ask Tracy to bring her on, and I'm gonna be sitting in the corner drooling when she's going on.
I want to know. Thank you, guys.
All right, you guys be good. Hey, both of you have a great weekend.
You too.
All right, take care. Remove a piece. All right, you take care, man.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh my God. See, I'm gonna be drooling. That's what she's saying right now. See.
See you, buddy. Let's do this.
All right, man. We will. All right. Episode 355. Guys, I can't even watch episode 355 in its entirety. It brings a tear to my eye. So you want to watch that. That's a good episode. All right. Thank you all that jumped in and watched and commented. That wraps up episode 428. Who is next? Saturday night. Actually, I'm sorry. Sunday. Me, a couple guys are going to be. It's going to be 4 of us total. 2 of them are really just going to be helping out with the interview. But that's going to be Eugene Blintawak, Steve from Canada. And we're going to be interviewing, and his name has escaped me now, which that shouldn't be the case, but I will get that. But at any rate, 7 o'clock, Sunday night test run, Saturday at 7 o'clock. So check that out. It should be very interesting. All right, folks, and this is going to be on Tapado, which I've been wanting to cover. So check it out. But all right, folks, you guys take care, and I will see you hopefully Sunday.